imperative. This country must inoculate our children from this massive debt, or they are financially doomed. Now, Donald Trump made a splashy entrance to the fair in Iowa, and why not? He's the front runner, at least for now. Joining me now from Southern California, author, speaker, strategic consultant, and Daily Ledger contributor, TJ O'Hara. TJ, so the Donald made a rather spectacular, grand, soaring entrance to the Iowa Fair, which just happens to match his polling numbers right now, which are kind of soaring.
Yeah, he's doing well. You know, he flew in on his helicopter. He was going to give rides, but they told him he couldn't do that because of safety purposes. Otherwise, I think the numbers at the Iowa Fair would have swelled. I would have gone for a helicopter ride. But he's atop the first major traditional poll at 25%. But you did see Ben Carson surge. He's in the second slot at 12%. And another person, kind of anti-establishment, but a little more traditional politician, Ted Cruz, has moved up with 10% into the number 3 slot. When you look at that poll, you've almost got quicksand between 6% and 9% for Jeb Bush, who's kind of falling, and Scott Walker and Mike Huckabee, who are kind of in that quagmire. They're not moving up, they're not moving down. I think there's some interesting richness, if you will, a rich ore potentially at 5% in Carly Fiorina, and at 4% you've got John Kasich and you've got Marco Rubio. Then below that you've got the people who you kind of wonder, why are you running? The Rick Perrys, the Rick Santorums, and so forth, that are down at 1% with a plus or minus 3% margin of error. But I do think keep an eye on that 5 and 4% range with Fiorina and Kasich and Rubio, who I think is more of a VP potential than a presidential potential. But pay particularly attention at those top 3, because the anti-establishment movement is firmly established at this point in time. On the Trump side, you've got somebody who engages the vocal cords before the brain on occasion. With the number 2 slot going to Ben Carson, you've got somebody who's the exact opposite, very soft-spoken, very cerebral, very thoughtful in his process before he speaks. And then you've got the more traditional anti-establishment candidate in Cruz.
Yeah, you know, I love the way you parse all this out, but we also have to remember that it's way early. We still have, what, about 5 months or so before the first vote is cast, and these polls tend to shift during flight. Now, on the other side, Bernie Sanders in Iowa, thinking he's going to get elected by attacking family values in this country, I think he's mistaken.
Well, you know, what he's doing is creating an interesting behavioral shift. He's going after Republican family values and articulating them a different way. He's contrasting the fact that what if your daughter were to be able to avoid an unwanted pregnancy with contraception? Wouldn't you be in favor of that? Wouldn't that be a family value? So he creates that juxtaposition. He does the same thing if you have a brother or sister who's gay. Would you deny them happiness of marriage? So he's playing off of that. Then he taps into a more emotional element when he gets into pregnancy leave and maternity leave, and he gets into vacations and so forth, sick leave if your child's seriously ill. Why not, if you're family-oriented, give people time off so they can address those types of issues? Now, it's an interesting argument, and it's one that you shouldn't ignore Bernie Sanders. One thing I will say for him, while I think ultimately goes down because of the socialist label, Bernie Sanders has an interesting articulation where Donald Trump says, "Make America Great Again," that's his slogan, and conservatives can get behind that. Bernie Sanders' slogan now is to restore the promise of America for everyone who's willing to work hard to build a better future for themselves or their family. Almost sounds Trump-esque.
Kinda, except it's out of the Communist Manifesto. Now, if Bernie at the fair was sampling all the foods, he may want to check his cholesterol levels, old Bernie. But once he jumped up there on the soapbox, then you kind of have to check your ego at the door, because you might get attacked, if you will.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they had, what, 175 different varieties, or 75 different varieties of food on a stick, and they had a cow sculptured out of butter. Where's Michelle Obama when we need her? This thing could have been sponsored by the American Heart Association, I think. It's like spackling your arteries. But when the candidates who did step up got up on the soapbox, you have Jeb Bush, for example, got up there and found out the harsh reality that a lot of people think he is his brother's keeper. And they really attacked him on the Iraq issue. Then you had other people got up there and really, the run-of-the-mill candidate got up there and spoke almost more about the food than they did of anything of substance, which is the traditional retail campaigning of avoid anything in controversy and just act like you're part of the common man. Make sure you wear jeans so you'll fit in. But then you had two interesting exceptions. Hillary Clinton didn't get on that soapbox. And supposedly it was for security reasons. Now, when she draws 20 people to one of her speaking engagements and Bernie Sanders draws 20,000, you kind of wonder where's the security issue. The other one that was interesting was Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't get on that soapbox either, but that's only because he's having a feud with the Des Moines Register, who said he should drop out of the race.
Well, those people in the Hawkeye State are tough, and of course, you have to get their vote if you want to become president, that's for sure.